Previously, we've seen that when the user navigates forward away from our app gets suspended in memory. Now, if it doesn't get tombstoned, the user can instantly switch back to the app using the back button or using the Windows Phone Task Manager, which we haven't talked about, but if you're a Windows Phone user, you may already know about that. So this is called fast app switching. Now, if sometime after leaving our app, the user wants to return to the app, not through the back button, but by relaunching the app from the app list or from the app's start tile, then by default, any previous instance of the app still in memory gets terminated, and a new instance of the app is created and launched. This means the app needs to go through the whole startup process again, which may mean longer startup times. Now, we can enable what's called fast resume in our app so that when the user taps in the app list or on the app's start tile, Windows Phone will reactivate any existing instance of the app in memory instead of systematically creating a new instance. All that's required to enable fast resume is to set a flag in the app manifest. So you're probably thinking, well, great, I can just enable fast resume then. Thing is, fast resume has consequences on the startup experience that we generally need to address in our app. These are related to the backstack, since fast resume restores the previous navigation history that's associated with the app instance that was suspended in memory and is now being reactivated, by default creating an unexpected back navigation experience. So we need to correct that experience by handling navigation events and working with the backstack. Let's look at an example of that. This is another 3-page demo app, and what I've done here is add a splash screen as well as a delay in application startup by handling the launching event of the application and introducing an artificial delay. And again, that's not something you should do since performing a long-running task in the launching event may cause your app to get terminated by the system. I'm doing this so that we can better see when a new instance of the app is being launched. Now, I haven't enabled fast resume yet, so let's look at the default behavior, and that's close to what we've seen before. You can see here the splash screen, which indicates a new instance of the app is being created. Now, let me go to page 2 and then page 3, and let me deactivate the app. I'm navigating away from it. And now, instead of going backwards to reactivate the app, what I'll do is navigate forward to the app by tapping on the app name here in the app list. And I could also tap on the start tile of the app. And notice this creates a new instance of the app. So you can see the splash screen and the delay. So this is a brand new instance. And if I hit the back button here, I'll go back to the start menu. Now let's go back and let's enable fast resume, which will modify the application startup process. So to do this, let's go in properties and the app manifest, and here we'll open that with the XML editor since there's no UI for that, for what we want to do. And in the default task element here, what we'll do is set the activation policy to the value resume instead of replace, which is the default value, and that will activate the fast resume feature. Okay. Now, before we launch the app to see the difference, let me go back to the app class here, the default app class provided by the Visual Studio template. And by default, this line here modifies the startup process. So let me comment this out for now so that we better see what's going on by default, and then we'll come back to this. Let's go ahead and run the app again. And I'll do the same as before. That is, this is creating a new instance of the app. You can see the splash screen and the delay. Then I'll navigate to page 2 and 3, deactivate the app. And I'll reactivate the app by navigating forward to it by tapping on the app name here. And notice there's no splash screen and there's no delay here. And the reason is that the previous instance of the app that we just deactivated was actually reactivated. This is not a new instance of the app. The previous navigation stack was restored and a new main page was added on top of the stack. And to verify that, let's hit the back button here and you can see our previous page 3, page 2, main page, and if I hit the back button again, we go back to the start menu. So that's what fast resume does. Instead of creating a new instance of the app when you start from the start menu or the start tile, it reactivates any previous instance of the app that sits in memory. To better see the fast resume startup flow, I've overridden the navigation methods here in page 3 and in main page and set some breakpoints. So now let's run our app again and let's create a backstack. Let's deactivate, and before I reactivate, let me re-enable the breakpoints. And now we can fast resume our app. And Windows Phone reactivates the previous instance of our app into page 3, which is the last page we visited before deactivation. That is the top page on the stack. And you can see this is an existing instance of page 3 since the constructor was not hit. So the system navigates to that last page we visited. And notice the navigation mode property of the parameter is set to reset here. Now the next thing Windows Phone does is instantiate a new main page. So this is the constructor being hit, and then it navigates away from page 3, and it sets the navigation property to new. And then it navigates into the new instance of main page that was created. And again, navigation mode property is set to new here. So this is a glimpse into the startup flow associated with fast resume. Back in the app class definition here, let's uncomment the code that we've commented out before. And this fixes the navigation backstack problem. So let's go ahead and run the app and do a little routine again. New app instance being created and displayed. Let's go to page 2 and 3. Let's deactivate. Reactivate using fast resume. And now we have the main page, but if I hit the back button, notice I'm taken back to the start menu. So the backstack has been cleared. And the way this works is here we're saying basically once fast resume is invoked and you navigate back to the last page visited before deactivation, that is the top page of the stack, then you hook up this handler here. And what this handler will do is say, okay, if navigation mode is reset, that means we're relaunching the app using fast resume. And in this case, I want you, on the next navigation step, to clear the backstack. That is, once you navigate away from this page, which again is the last page visited before the activation, then I want you to go ahead and clear the backstack. That's what this is doing by calling remove back entry several times. And at this point, we're in the new main page instance and we're actually clearing up the backstack. Now, depending on our app, we may choose to provide a different user experience on fast resume. So instead of showing a new main page and clearing up the backstack, we may want to provide an experience similar to the one that's provided when the user navigates backwards into the application and the dormant app is resumed. So that means we want to show the last page visited before the activation, that is the page that's on top of the stack, and restore navigation history. So to do this, instead of handling the navigated event here of the root frame, we'll handle the navigating event. And remember from our previous example, when the app is fast resumed, page 3 is hit and navigated to, and then immediately navigated away from with navigation mode set to new. And then the system goes on to instantiate a new main page and adds it on top of the stack. So what we want to do here in this handler is cancel that navigation away from page 3, which is the last page visited before the activation. So first we'll check that e-navigation mode is set to new, and that's the case. That means we're navigating away from the last page that was visited before the activation. And if so, we'll simply set the cancel flag to true, and that will cancel that navigation away from page 3. Now if we run this, page 2, page 3, deactivation, and fast resume. Now you can see page 3 is displayed, which is the last page visited, and the navigation stack was restored.